morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William. I'm with the MW Group. Where we specialize in investment real estate more than anything else. I've been in business for 5 years. My partner, that is unfortunately not here today, has been in real estate for 10 years. And together we just joined forces to flip properties, help private investors, um, help investors that have nothing to don't want to have that don't want nothing to do with real estate invest money with us. We show them opportunities. Traditionally, we focus more on off-market distressed stuff. Fix and flips is our bread and butter. And I got the pleasure of talking to Mary Daughtrey today, who has been a real estate agent and investor for over 20 years. On top of that, not only just having a license for over 20 years, but actively flipping and actively um, investing in her own little niche, which is subject to. Am I right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Mary, could you tell us what subject to is to start off more than anything?
Well, subject to is the most common term that people will recognize that as, and it's basically a non-qualifying assumption of an existing loan and realtors of a seller's loan, and they've been here for decades. And most agents don't even know about them until lately when the market got really tough. And loans were kind of hard to do. And so to survive, now there's a lot of groups out there doing these. And they're known as, I call them wraps, but because they're basically the seller is the lender now. They're lending on their loan. And so it's become a really great tool for people if it's used correctly.
Awesome. And from our conversation last week, you've acquired a couple of properties to for you to hold yourself. I think you were working on one in the Austin area not too long ago.
That's for a different person, but yeah, I had somebody reach out to me um, through the foreclosure job that I have, and that's a different. We can wrap into that, but basically, he needed a lot of help. He had acquired 20 something properties with the wrap subject twos, and they were all done by people who don't really understand what they're doing. And he was in foreclosure on 8 of those properties when he called me.
Oh wow.
And so he ended up losing a couple because he was over leveraged on a lot of them. A lot of them were, um, a lot was owed on him than they were worth. He had one in the Freeport area, and that's becoming a big problem because of insurance. Insurance is a huge issue in real estate now.
Oh yeah.
Um, Back in the day, insurance was a non-event for investors, right? It was just like a little nuisance line item on there. Okay, there's your expense, but it was really negligible in terms of cost. But now it'll make or break a deal in terms of a deal. Of, are you going to do the deal or not? So a lot of problems down on the coastal area are having problems because insurance is astronomical, and combine that with the property taxes, they don't work. So he has lost some properties there, but um, I'm helping him on a property up in the San Marcos area of
Awesome.
Texas. I'm, quote unquote, for lack of some, the attorney that's handling it, that owns a title company up there, who's the only person I trust to do these, called me and says, "What is your role, Mary?" And I said, "Well, for lack of a better role in this one, it's a transaction coordinator. So I'm keeping all the pieces together. I took an existing contract um, that's very iffy. I don't like them. They're um, contracts. We use the 1-to-4 contract for Trek. And I transferred all that, made it right for this group that does the subject twos, and made it good and pretty and put it together.
Now, when we were talking, you mentioned that there's the right way to do subject to
Mm-hmm.
deals, and then there's the incorrect way that a lot of
Mm.
people are now doing nowadays. Now, I know a couple of investors that do stick to the subject twos because it sounds great. You're taking over someone's 2 point something
Mm-hmm.
percent interest rate. I mean, if I'm gonna tackle on a single family property, and I want to hold it as a rental, I mean that I feel like that's the best way to go, especially somewhere something with maybe a little equity where just buying it outright doesn't necessarily work. Can you tell us like the correct way on how to do these subject twos, or like what the process should be compared to how the people are doing it wrong and putting sellers or other investors potentially like at risk?
Right. Well, right and wrong might be the wrong terminology. It's but you nailed it. It's the risk of these are you take these on and they're going to be called due because they're done in such a way that the insurance is the biggest problem. If you don't have the right insurance company doing these, it's going to tip the lender off and they're going to call it due.
How so?
They reach out to the lender and say, well, it's changed hands. Uh-oh. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can't change hands. So you've got to have knowledgeable insurance agents, and we do, that know what they're doing, know how to talk to the lender and tell them what's going on. And the person that I work with he helped write the legislation for these types of loans in Texas. And Texas is the most regulated for these types of deals, rightfully so, because they were fraught with a lot of fraud early on. I've been doing them for decades. Like I said, I've been in real estate for 34 years. And these have been going on. If you think back to when I bought my first home in 81, my mortgage interest rate was 12%. Okay, so they went even higher than that. I was working for a bank at the time that was paying CDs at 21% interest.
Wow.
Score, right? So what did people do? They had realtors at the time, and I wasn't a realtor at that time, but they had to find a way to do it. And how these came into being is, okay, well, let's take over the mortgage. And some were assumable, and some weren't. But anyway, it's kind of morphed into a lot. But the legislation always comes about because there's been some type of wrongdoing, and so they put legislation to protect. Now, the group I work with, he's an attorney, but he has his own title company, and he discloses 19 ways on both sides what you're getting into. And if you don't want to do it, awesome, then don't. But know the risk. On the seller side, the risk is you're still liable for the loan as it goes along. The risk for the buyer is that it's going to be called due if you don't have the right people in place to put it. A third party servicer is huge. I don't know if any that y'all have done has a third party servicer in place.
As far as like specific deals or anything like,
Well,
or
like the one I do is the buyer pays the third party servicer. The third party servicer disperses the funds to the HOA and then to the mortgage company.
traditionally with us, we just kind of take it through the title company, and
Okay.
then they handle most of that, mostly all of that stuff. I
Yeah.
know I pay up for on HOAs all the time, and if there are any liens, they get paid off
Right.
before we acquire the
At close, but
property.
then after the close, the third party servicer, I think it's like 45 a month,
Okay.
and they handle the payments after the close
Mm,
and
okay.
everything. And the one I work with is bond entitled in Texas, and they know how to distribute the monies without tipping off the mortgage
Nice.
company. Those are due.
Okay, so I know in the subject to world, I think there's a couple of different strategies and methods you could use
Hmm.
to acquire a property.
Hmm.
Um, I've heard of wraps,
Hmm.
and you mentioned it earlier. I want to
Right.
ask you a little bit about that. And I've
Sure.
also heard of like the Pace Morby method. And excuse me if I sound just completely ignorant about it, because I really don't know much about it. I want to understand it as much as possible.
Hmm.
Could you walk us through those types of different methods that there are and what they are?
Well, let's go to what can you use subject twos for.
Hmm.
You can use them for yourself, and you get them at a stellar rate, whatever that might be, and you rent it out and you have cash flow on it. And what I typically like to get from my investors, I work with 99.9% investors is what I do. And I try and get my investors at least 8 to 10%, if not more, cash flow on a property. And I do that by combining it with subject to. So you've got right now the lower interest rate. Because if you're doing it traditional financing, you're at what, 6.5%, six and three
Correct.
quarters right
If
now.
you have good credit.
If you have good credit, and mine are 800 credit scores, right?
Right.
So, but I always tell them cash is king. Hold on to as much as you need, right?
Right.
So in these subject twos, it's just straight, and you've got cash flow. What you're talking about is wraps, and let me give you an example on the one in San Marcos. Okay, this one's being bought for him to live in.
Okay.
Okay, 5.415 interest rate, and there's no equity in it. There's no gravy in it. It's at market value. Okay, she owes on it what it's worth, and she bought it for 365. Now is selling it for 281. So she's taken a huge hit because the Austin market was absolutely annihilated after 2020 and 2021, part of 2022. People were paying above appraised value, signing waivers on that. I didn't play in that market. I don't do that. So it's like FOMO, fear of missing out, right?
Right.
That's what that was all going on. So now you're seeing the repercussions of all of that. So this is this situation. He's going to live in it, $2,200 a month, and all good. But you've got, had this deal not come about, the other way to do that would be it's a good for an investor to come in and buy it. And these are out there all the time. Sell it to somebody else who wants to, and he makes money by wrapping it, say like making 20 grand on top of it, because it's worth it to somebody to do that, and making 8% interest on that loan. So he's getting the gravy of the 3% discrepancy between the existing mortgage and the 8% on his 20 grand, which might not sound a lot, but it adds up, and he gets the 20 grand at some point, a partial of it. So it's a wrap.
So a wrap would be pretty much the investor in this case being the bank for somebody else.
Right. So he's wrapping the existing loan,
Mm-hmm.
and then he has his own loan in it. So it's like a two-step. So
Right.
whoever's buying it,
The 5 point something, and then
right,
he's
and then
doing
he's
eight.
buying it like 20 grand, just as an example.
Right.
So that's where the third-party servicer comes in. Why I do it, because the end buyer, you've got an interim buyer who's assigning it, who's going to wrap it and sell it to somebody else,
Okay.
and you've got them paying one person, the servicer. The servicer pays the investor who has wrapped it. Then he's paying the mortgage company. He's paying the HOA.
I got you.
That's where that third-party servicer is critical, and it's visibility for the seller, whose credit's on the line, to make sure the payments are being made. So that's one way to do the wrap and making money, and it can be even bigger than that. Depends on how much, if there's equity in the property. Like one I'm working on in Rosenberg, worth 400, 268 is owed. Now this is a foreclosure one, so there is arrears to pay of like $36,000. But you can see the disparity in repairs. When I went to look at it, you've got to replace the carpet upstairs. So I've got the repair number at about $15,000. But beautiful home, built in 2013, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath. You know what I mean? So there's
Right.
equity in there. So can you see that? And then this one's also at like a 4.5% interest rate. So you can see where an investor can make some nice money in that one, and do that as well.
So I guess it would still, like, your job's not done, right? Like, as the person in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're going to be assigning it to someone at
Mm-hmm.
an 8% interest rate, you got to find someone who, like, is
Right.
is going to live in it, or
Mm-hmm.
is it mainly to, like, for them to invest in it themselves?
He basically is to find somebody who's gonna, either they want to live in it, or they've got another use for it
Okay.
and do it. It just depends. There's a lot of people out there that have good credit, but need a place to live, and this works for them,
Right.
right? Even though they're paying above market, because she bought it at 365. At some point, that Austin market is going to come back, right? It's Austin,
Yeah.
so they see the opportunity there. And when people first started these, and I probably meander, so just forgive me,
No, no worries.
William, because that's the way I do my mind. My daughter goes, "How did you get from, you know, breakfast to dinner without having a segue, Mom? You just kind of jump into something different." But anyway, it's about, and people have stables of people who want to buy these on the wraps, even at no equity in the property, because it's worth it to them. Whereas years ago, people were saying, I went to a class specifically, and he says, you want properties with equity. And I kept saying, why? There's opportunity, especially on these interest rates. And if there's no, because real estate is a tangible asset, right?
Right.
And um, you just have to hold it. You don't panic. You know what the pros and cons are, and you be in the position to maintain should a downfall. Like when COVID, you couldn't, renters didn't have to pay. What do you do?
Yeah.
You just have to be geared and not live on the edge and not being able to react to something should something happen.
Right. And I guess that's a big part of the reason why our private investors like investing with us, because they like walking them through the numbers. It's really easy to drive you down 123 Smith
Right,
Street and show you where your investment is at, compared to the stock market.
right,
It just continuously
right.
fluctuating up and down.
It's generational wealth.
Right.
And I am so passionate about real estate. I've been doing this since part time since '92. And I started out single mom of 5 kids because I come from a corporate world, and I was a numbers person. I was an efficiency expert, and my last job was a manufacturing in El Cajon, California, and they had 16 departments, and a lot of them had never been profitable. So I started as a temp there, working on spreadsheets, and they hired me and moved me from department to department and made them more efficient and made them profitable. And I love that. I love numbers, and that's gears you right towards real estate, right?
You're in the
You're in
right
the right,
industry.
right? So, um, and then I went full time in 2000. It was really good to me out there in California. So
So you being, I mean, that's a lot of years of experience. I started
I'm
in
old. You can say
no, it's not.
that.
So to me, it's just like I started in 2020. You
Okay.
know, it's you're talking about peak COVID, and there was a lot of jokes surfacing
Yeah.
around. It's like, oh, newer agents, earnest money is the
Hmm.
money you deliver to the title
Oh
company
yeah.
to, kind of those kind of jokes, because it was easy for a lot of agents. Now, for me, I didn't start in the residential side. I actually worked for a big investment brokerage, a
Okay.
wholesale brokerage. So I was always accustomed to the distressed fixer uppers and kind of analyzing deals that way and finding off market leads. Try to find a way to find off market leads and build a network of investors who wanted to buy those deals as well, or partner up with you, whatever the case was, right? But how has, and obviously I know it's been a big difference, but how would you say that the 2020 COVID shift was compared to other other times in real estate, like the 2008 housing
Hmm.
crisis and stuff like that?
It was odd, wasn't it? Because it was a frenzy of
Well,
real
it was all
estate.
I knew. It was my normal. So that's why I wanna get
Okay,
your
can I give you
perspective on
my
it.
perspective on
Yeah,
it?
of course.
Oh my God, these
You could say it.
these children,
Yeah, you can say
these
it.
dumb children are making hand over fist. And I have my investors, right? And I did very few deals during that 2020 2021 because we were getting in a bidding competition
With a lot of
and,
people.
and a lot of people, and I refused to sign appraisal waivers.
Right.
And my guys, honestly, I met some people in 2020 who wanted to work with me, 4 people at least, who are still who we did, I didn't sell them a home until 2024 because I wasn't going to play in that game, and they were
Right.
okay to hang with me. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? But it was, and I had one, but because one of my investors, we bought an investment property, and it did stellar. And Katie, we were getting, uh, he got, 2% interest, and we got I did Section 8 for him and Katie, and we got 3,100 a month. So I mean, you're talking
That's that's a good
pretty
chunk.
nice, pretty
Yeah.
nice, whatever, because the home was like 265,
Yeah.
and so and so he needed to buy a home, and we're talking over $1 million home, and it was even competitive in that, and I got a little young kid in real estate, and the let me just say, it was just I just shook my head, the arrogance of, and we got the deal, but she was trying to play hardball, and anyway, we got the deal, but she's no longer in business because I went back to ask her for permission to use pictures of the home. No longer in business, and there were so many like that. And I said to somebody, I said, "Baby doll, not to be, I'm still going to be here
Yeah.
because
You've been through it all.
to all these agents out there, and I've been a mentor to agents because Texas law, you have to, if you're an agent, you have to have 3 deals and work with a mentor. And I've mentored a lot of people, and they want instant gratification, and they want it now, and that's 2020, 2021. If you were in that, and if you didn't plan and know that the well is going to run a little bit dry and trickle at some point, then you're out of business.
Yeah.
And it's sad to me, and it was frustrating to me, but it was sad to me now because a lot of them are there and they don't understand it's hard.
It is really hard.
And I was supposed to be there mentoring them how to do contracts and those questions, but the main questions were, how do I get business? How do I get business? How do I get
Wow.
business? And that's a different scope, and you know what I mean.
So yeah. So
But that's where the difference is. In 2008, just to see, I get off track, but
no, no worries.
2008 was, oh my gosh, such fraud, which drove that. And like I said, when I say people signing these contracts, I said, for every paragraph you see in this contract, that's because somebody decided to do an end run and do something illegal and make it hard for everybody else. And that's what happened leading up to 2007 and 2008. I was in San Diego, and properties were jumping 100 grand a month, like clockwork. And
in
2000 to 2004, 5, 6, all leading up to that, it was insane.
oh wow.
And appraisers were being bought. There was a lot of collusion between title companies and appraisers. Um, and mortgage brokers. A lot of people went to jail for that. That's why you have the Dodd-Frank Act or Frank Dodd Act, whatever that name is. But that's how we got that, and that's what that drove it. I was also working in the Las Vegas market at the time, because, like I said, I just did investors, and we did really well out in Las Vegas. But again, it was fear of missing out. And there was a frenzy. I call it a frenzy. And that's what you kind of saw in 2020, if you want to kind of talk about it. I had investors from all over, from Chicago, from Detroit, from Michigan, that invested down here. But they says, well, what about investing in Indianapolis? I said, why? And because a lot of people were going to odd places to invest. I said, okay, but what's driving that market? I said, in Houston, here's the industries that are driving this market and why it's going to be sustainable. I said, what have you got driving the market up in Indiana, and I couldn't find anything. So I didn't want to invest for them up there. Um, but in Las Vegas, you had a frenzy going on to the point where uh, a lot of new home developers are out there. Because Las Vegas is very limited because you're surrounded by the Land Bureau.
Right.
So there's only so many much that can be built. So you had a lot of people going and investing in that to where the point subdivisions were limiting investors in that neighborhood. You couldn't be an investor and buy. It got so bad. But we did really well, and I helped somebody out that was in trouble, and so I did a partnership and did 51% interest so I could make the decisions because he didn't really understand real estate. And we had a 2-year deal, 2-year term, but it was my decision when we got out.
Especially with when it comes to analyzing deals, and
Right.
like you mentioned, you're in competition with someone else. You got to be able to pull the trigger
Right.
extremely fast, and that's something I'm very grateful that I didn't start with retail in a way, because like you mentioned, I know a lot of agents that, well, a lot of ex-agents that started in 2020 and that aren't in business now, and it's mainly because of that. It was a lot of people got handed deals
Handed
here and
deals.
there.
Yeah.
Like if you were a selling agent in 2020, you were winning automatically.
Yeah.
I know personal, I know people in my sphere that were getting into their homes and then they had to move to different areas. Like you said, appraisal, signing appraiser, waiving appraisal waivers, um, going 20, 30 over asking and still not being enough in
Right.
certain situations. So I get that, and I hear a lot of people even say today, "Oh, I should have became a real estate agent." It's like, "Ah, well, buddy, this is one of the hardest things you could do.
It is, right?
It's a
And it's
very
expensive.
it is. I tell
Very
people
expensive.
that all the time. You have HAR dues all the time, subscription fees, you have brokerage fees, you have everything, whatever you do. And I tell everybody that it is an emotional roller coaster. And
Hmm.
the people that do succeed, I feel like, are a little crazy. You got to be a little crazy
Yeah.
to be in this for a very long time, because it
Right.
does mess with your mental health at
Yeah.
times, and
And it's not an 8 to 5 job,
it's
is it?
not. It's not.
It's it's um it's 24/7
Yep.
and
Especially when you're
365.
starting off. Especially when you're starting off.
Absolutely. And right now, different from when I started, you've got social media. And that's something I'm not really great at. But you really,
It's
kind
a
of,
powerful tool.
it's a very powerful tool. And, having to do that. But it's, something I'm working on. But it's a really expensive to be in. But I like the versatility of it because I'm doing um, the foreclosure aspect of it, the subject to the wrapped aspect of it, the rental aspect of it. I've done construction. I did 12 units out in California, in Oceanside. So I know from ground up construction. So now I know construction loans. I did loans. I've done reverse mortgages. So anytime, like the attorney I work with, we stop foreclosures with TROs. So whenever somebody comes up with a certain loan, I know what that loan is. And so I hope I enhance the law that I do and the people that come to us because I know what they're going through and I know what's happened and everything. So,
So for me, because I deal with pre foreclosures as well a
hmm,
handful of times, and even now I had a deal in Fresno that I was working on that I thought we were going to get. I think another investor came in and offered a little more than us. Good for them. You know, it is what it
right,
is. The way that we analyze deals, we're taking into consideration we're in the last quarter of the year. It's a little slower. It's Fresno.
right.
It's not the most lucrative area to invest in, so you need it at a specific number, and we also take into consideration how many actives are in the area.
Hmm.
So we try
Huge.
to take that approach when we're analyzing a deal as well. But with these pre foreclosures, and it's happened to me a couple of times, where someone someone offers the sky and the moon and offers them, I don't know, 20, 30K more than what I can offer, and they come they come to us 3 days before they're getting foreclosed on and say, hey, these guys didn't perform. Is there any way that you guys can take over? And what we do is we'll try. We'll get
Right.
earnest money into the title company as fast as possible and try to reach the lender as fast as possible. And from what I've seen, some lenders do like to play nice. They play along and
Right.
they delay it a little longer for you to work. But I mean, 3 days before, after already falling out of contract, it's not the happiest lender to work with. So what tips would you give someone that's working a pre foreclosure deal?
Mm-hmm.
Because time is of the essence more than
Time is of
anything.
the essence. So in that case, hopefully you can work with the lender. Um, if you've got an opportunity and it's a good deal, then what we do is we can stop a foreclosure with a temporary restraining order or a TRO. Um, we stopped them on date of sale. So right now we're coming into a crazy week because foreclosure is next Tuesday, right?
Right.
So um, if and we've got a lot of investors. I have had so many, um, and we've stopped the sale to give you just a few weeks to close it if that's what's needed. So there's not a push to do it, or are we just spinning our wheels and not going to be able to be successful because it's sold? So we can stop a foreclosure, date of sale if need be. But if you've got 3 days, then that's absolutely doable. And a lot of the investors will pay for it because these people might not have the money to do it, right? To stop the foreclosure, the investors, pay for it
Is that
to
is that
stop it.
usually paying the reinstatement fee or
No, it's paying us to do a law. It's a lawsuit,
okay?
and then it's a TRO. So we go to the court, depending on the county,
Okay.
and the judge signs a TRO to stop the sale,
Okay. So it is a
and then
legal matter
it
more
is
than
a legal
anything.
matter, right? And it makes you really, because you need to really understand what you've got, and 3 days is not a lot of time to say if there's anything hidden.
Right.
You've got to be
It's not.
comfortable with what you're doing, right?
Yep.
So that gives you the time, and it's worth it to people to spend the money to do it, to be able to get the deal if the deal is worth it.
Would I be stepping on your toes by asking how much that process usually is?
It depends on the property and the county. It's about $3,500
Okay.
to file a lawsuit and to do the TRO. We have to go to court for the hearing, and that includes all the filing fees. If the judge signs it, there's no guarantee in any field of law. However, we've got most of the times these fail is if people have been playing the system and have continually filed TROs, which people do, or file bankruptcy, just didn't delay the inevitable. A judge won't sign it. But 99.9% time, a judge is going to sign the TRO to stop the sale.
And you guys
And
have had good success with it.
very good success. The attorney I work with, that's all he does. Now, there's a lot of law firms that do everything. He doesn't. He does that, and I work with him. Um, and and
It's a niche. It's you
it's
you
a
want
very yeah.
you want to have someone
Yeah.
with something that serious.
Hmm.
You want someone who has experience in that type of
Right.
thing.
So
Understood.
it's been beneficial for me. That's why I tell you kids out there, educate. And while I'm doing the legal part of it, I know it now, and I think it helps me be a better, more informed, whether I'm in real estate or anything else. I said my experience on both sides helps me in both areas of what I work in.
And I mean, I always say that an investor's job or a real estate agent's job, even at that, is you're getting paid to problem solve.
Yep.
So the more you know, the easier it is. I mean, with
Right.
us, I get put in situations where okay, there's 2 heirs. I've dealt with properties that have 7 heirs.
Hmm.
We've chased down people with 12 heirs. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I come from a messy side of real estate as it is. So
See, you're
what
my
I'm
kind of guy,
yeah,
right?
so what I'm
It's more funner,
yeah,
isn't
it
it?
is. It
Yeah.
is. And a lot of people they like the $1 million homes, which is
Yeah.
cool. I love
Yeah.
it. A 3% commission on a $1 million home. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I There's something about solving the puzzle with someone's situation.
Yeah.
There's a house that I'm tracking right now that I'm still hopeful to find the executor of the estate
Okay.
for a house that I see vacant all the time
Yeah.
down the street from my house,
Yeah.
and I haven't given up.
And that's researching
It
too,
is.
right?
It
So
is.
the attorney I work with, um, we've got such a great relationship. He's such an easy person to work with, and but I research everything, and I can go back and I find. He goes, "Hey, I've got this. Can you find out who it sold to and who do we contact?" And because there's an overage, because most people don't realize that if your home sells, um, for instance, especially these HOA sales, and there's a caveat in HOA sales because they've got a right of redemption, but it's sold for an example, HOA dues for 6,000. The guy bought it for 115. HOA got satisfied, constable got satisfied, and $105,000 went back to the people who lost the home in the sale.
Mm,
Okay, that's called overage.
okay.
Okay, same situation with this attorney gave me this property, like 115,000 overage. Where do you go to get it? Do you know?
Right.
Um, you go to the Harris County auditor, and I guess any county auditor, and a nice lady, and I had actually it was 40,000 going back to a client of ours
Wow.
on an HOA, and so she's getting that money, but she's got a right to redeem the property. So she's getting money back, and then she's going to have to pay the person who bought it. And I can't tell you, this is really odd this cycle so far. We've got two clients who are post foreclosure, and we're going to try and get the home back for them. And we've been really successful at doing that,
Wow.
surprisingly for people. So, isn't it fun? I mean, it's just, I can't tell you how
It
much I've learned and how much to do.
it sounds like you're a commissioned real estate detective to a degree. Because
To
if
a
you
degree, yeah.
because if you find out, like, if you find solutions to these things, find the people that, like you mentioned, like you're working with your attorney hand in hand, and hey, I found this, can you check on this?
Yeah.
It
Now that
it
one,
sounds
yeah,
almost like that.
it's outside of it. Some of it you don't get paid for. My kids are, especially my daughter goes, you give away so much. And I guess in underline she goes, because you're so old and you know so much. But that's what it's about. It's like, in one situation, I had an investor saying, "Hey, can you help me? This lady, 80 something years old. I'm not going to be able to close in time." And he's an agent, and he said, I, she needs this money to live. She has nobody in her life, right? So we stopped the sale and got her. And these are sometimes phony lists, people. So I check it out and I tell my attorney, and I said it is real. And so we stopped the sale, and the agent called me. He goes, "Mary, she just cried at the closing table."
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it's about real people.
real people, real situations,
Real
and
situations, and there's a lot of compassion that goes into that. And then, do I make money? Yeah,
no, there's more to it.
but there's more to
There's more
it
to
than
it than
that.
just
Yeah,
making money for sure. Because, I mean, we're both in the same line. We're distressed real estate is
it's hard.
it's hard. You're dealing with people who, maybe life got the better of them,
Yep.
and stuff happens. Stuff happens all the time
Hmm.
within our lives, and
I
one
went
bad
through it in
turn.
'96, um, and I tell people that when I'm picking up the phone, and I answered the phone literally 24/7 for foreclosures. And I know when they're a foreclosure versus a real estate call because of the difference in the numbers coming in. And I answered one on New Year's Day, losing their parents' home, and we stopped the sale. So it's about understanding. And this one that's getting the 40 grand back in the overage, she was just hysterical because that's her home, that's their sanctuary. Am I getting a real estate out of it? No. Um, but at some point, you hope it comes back to you, and no
Yes.
guarantees.
But
But
there's
there's other
deals.
opportunities to make money. But this was,
Yeah.
I'm working for a foreclosure attorney, and most of them are homeowners that want to stay in it. Now, when I'm focusing on okay, shift gears, married to real estate, I get the list, and I focused on out of area people. Totally different mindset, totally different um,
Yeah.
opportunity, right?
Yeah. There's deals that I do strictly for the relationship where I know I'm
Right,
not making any money on, but
right.
you help somebody out of a jam and you hope it goes back to you. And if it doesn't go back to you either way, you still did a good deed, and
You,
that's something you can live
you
with.
don't do it for a hidden agenda, hopefully,
Exactly.
right?
No.
And that's
No.
where you always come to it. And working on and kind of skipping back to the subject twos and wraps, I working with this guy that bought 30 something, and you know it was 6 layers deep. There was wrap upon wrap upon wrap upon wrap, 6 layers deep. Don't know why he wanted to buy this property. He was over 40 grand above market, but the second layer deep said, because I want that information. It's important that we get that information from the seller and on accessing the portal to the mortgage so the lender's not tipped off, right? And they told me that the seller's no longer important. I said, yowzer. I said, huh. In my world, they're extremely important. It's their loan. It should be a symbiotic relationship and not an adversarial. So to me, it's about, and it goes back to playing fair with people and um, being transparent. Because if you're having to hide things, you're you're going to get yourself in a legal kerfuffle, and you don't want to be in it. You just don't. And in real estate, you're going to get sued. It's a guarantee. I guess there's another lawsuit coming out from the coal commission thing. I don't know what it's about, but I guess there's another one coming down the pike. But I got sued. The only time it was out in California, and it was about the whole appraisal thing jumping 100 grand, and we went to arbitration, which is binding. Um, and it was an agent working with a broker at the time, and the everybody's in a room when you're in arbitration together, and um, then we break out into groups, and we said what we had to say, and I said, look, here's what I did, and it was a fixer-upper house, um, great area of that county, and I said we had it under contract, and they colluded together to try and get out of the commissions and cut me out of the deal. And she said that I undersold her house to make money.
Wow.
But what happened is a broker actually, she got messed up in the end. A broker convinced her to sell it to her or deed it to her, and I don't know what that went through, but that wasn't another part of that whole arbitration thing that I wasn't a part of. But when we broke up into groups, the arbitrator looked at me and he goes, I did not like you coming into this because I felt like you took advantage of someone. But having heard what you said, and my broker um, at the time said, appraisers, your prices are jumping 100 grand. When you put it under contract, yeah, and in a month when you're closing, it's worth over 100 more, but you've got a contractual up. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he said to me, "You're in the right. Unfortunately, the way law works is, you go to trial. It's expensive. You hire an appraiser. They hire for, you know what I mean? So you just have to be prepared. But all you can do is come at things as honestly as you possibly can. Don't try and get something over on somebody, and you'll make money. You'll make good, honest money, and always educate yourself. And you're doing it the right way. I love you. You're fun.
Thank you so
In
much.
terms
I
of
appreciate it.
you're curious,
I am, and
that's going to hold you
that,
in good stead.
and I hope that never changes on my end,
Mm-hmm.
because I do like to learn as much as possible, and
Right.
I think there's something to learn from anybody, even someone,
Absolutely.
even
I learn all the
yeah,
time.
even someone new that I've met, newer agents than me that maybe do something, whether they're just naturally better at advertising or
Yeah,
promoting themselves a little better, that I like to pick their brains
absolutely.
just to kind of, kind of see their insight on things. But I want to, it looks like we're wrapping up here in a
Okay.
little bit, but I want to ask you one last thing because we kind of just jumped over it a little bit, a long
I
time
tend to
ago.
do that. Yeah.
So what is the Pace Morby method that
Mm.
in the subject to world?
It's I don't know how it started. I know of it very well. It's a paid membership, pretty pricey from what I understand of the Pace Morby group. And they quote unquote teach you how to do this. They have their own contracts. Um, they really don't know a lot of them don't know what they're doing, and they just go to any title company and they don't know what they're doing. There's a good ratio of them, and I don't know the whole spectrum, but the loans could possibly be called due by the way those are handled.
Really?
And the guy that called me with a problem of all these properties, a lot of them were these types of deals, and they don't put them with third-party servicers. He made mortgage payments that didn't get to the mortgage company. Okay,
Were they in like, were they just an empty space? Where was the money going to? Do you know?
they were keeping it. He was paying the seller
And
and
not the
not the
mortgage.
mortgage company, and the seller wasn't paying the mortgage, or he couldn't. You're supposed to be getting portal access to pay these, and the portal password changed. He couldn't make the mortgage payments.
Hmm.
So if you have a third party servicer, I guess I don't want to bash something. I'm just telling you what they are. They're a fee based service, pretty pricey fee. I worked with a lot of Pace Morby, not a lot, but a few, and a few that'll change it to 1-to-4 contract and put it with my guy. Okay, I'm fine with that, but I won't do it. I've not done deals because they won't get off of who the title company is they want to use, and change their contracts so that they're friendly and put a third party servicing in place. Some of them will, which is great, but if they don't, because they've got the deal. But I just don't. I personally, I don't agree with the way they come about it. They're just very loose in what they disclose. A lot of sellers don't know what they're getting into. Um, and there's not enough disclosure. So that's the difference between what I do and what they do. They don't use the 1-to-4 contract. 1-to-4 is the most legally solid contract that you can have to protect you, whether you're an agent or not. You don't have to be an agent to use those contracts. And there's not enough disclosures, and there's not enough education. Some are, but some aren't. And you've got to educate everybody. And like the guy that I use, and I'll give you all that information if you want, but you've got to educate. He says, "Did you?" When he called me on this deal in San Marcos, because I got it as a Pace Morby deal, And I transferred it to the contract and transferred it. It was with a different title company and transferred it to him. He goes, Mary, did you educate the seller and the buyer? And I said, yes, on the buyer. And then, yes, I got permission to talk to the seller. And she has an agent who's actually her brother. And they were excited that I came into the picture. And they go, okay. We still want to do it, but thank you for explaining it. And thank you. And I put a third party servicing in place. There wasn't one. So all the pieces are churning. That's supposed to close this week. Um, but yeah, that's the difference. There's not enough disclosure. There's not enough educated, not all, but educated. I don't want to put them all in one thing. Um, I just have a real hard time agreeing with not knowing what you're doing and how you're affecting people. This is a big deal. And where I get upset is where you see these types of things and there's a lot of error. And I'm like the sixth step when I told you about.
Right.
Yeah, wow.
That sounds incredible to say that
The
the seller doesn't even
no,
matter at
right.
that point,
And that
or the
one was
mortgage holder.
right. And the fifth step didn't even know what she had sold. She was just assigning interest. She made 10 grand, not
Wow.
really knowing what she was doing. So um, that's that's what I have is please know what you're doing and how you're affecting people, whether you're pace morbi or not pace morbi. But I don't know them personally. I've investigated it, and I chose to go and stay a different way. I've been doing the way I'm doing it since 2017. It's the first class I went to with him, and he's an attorney.
Okay.
And he's helped write the legislation now for this. He's done 16,000 subject twos, and he has a lot. He's always updating us. Like he tells us, there's a lot of lenders now that are calling these due because they know. So you're putting them in trust first before you do the deals. Do you know who those people are? I do. Um, so just it's a constant education. It's constantly changing because of bad practices, I guess,
I got you.
or uneducated practices, which that's my opinion and based on what I've seen out there, and not a dig at the system, just my disagreement why I don't choose to do that one, if that makes sense.
So when you're doing a subject to deal, I guess the most important part is making sure that whether it's a third party system or yourself, just making sure that the bank is getting paid, HOA, everything is
Right,
staying on top of
right,
more than anything.
right. And then if you're going to do it that way, you've got to have access to the portal. The seller has to be confident with you doing that. But at the end of the year, who's getting the tax documents? Do you know how to handle that?
Right.
Third party servicing does that.
That's one less thing for you to worry about.
Right. So the IRS is getting the right documents for the right person. Who's getting the mortgage interest deduction on that deal? You as the buyer should be. Okay? But third parties, where's that 1098 going? It's going to go to your seller. Okay? So you've got a third party servicer who gets that document and knows how to shift those monies over to you and get you the 1098. Right? So there's just a lot of nuances that people don't understand. Okay, we're just doing the deal. They don't have any idea. I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like I got paid. I'm done. But
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
hopefully it doesn't. And what else is there was? I was going to say something about. But
So that's so for me it's because I guess like you mentioned the seller who's walking into a selling their house subject to they they got to know who they're doing business with.
they've got to know who they're doing business with, and also they've got to understand, and most don't. And some don't want to do it because they don't understand this. Yes, it's their credit. So, yes, it's important that they stay on top of it. They've got to understand they've also got rights. they've got a right to foreclose on that person if the payments aren't being made. That's really powerful, right? You haven't lost you're not you're not powerless now. You still have power. But somebody else is making your mortgage payments, and what is the best thing to raise your credit? A mortgage payment. That keeps your credit the highest among everything on your
Yeah.
credit score, right? So if you're in distress, the one in San Marcos isn't, but if you were in distress, and the way I tell people, if you want to consider doing this, Mr. Seller, the best way that your mortgage is being paid, now you're going to rebuild your credit. You still have authority over that loan in the case of default, then you've got a right to foreclose on that person. So just make sure you start putting money away. At best case, it's a nest egg, take a vacation at some point. But if should somebody default, you've got the ability to reinstate the loan, foreclose on that person, and then resell the property the same way. Just notice it's a tool, but there's always pros and cons in life on everything you do,
Right.
buyer or seller. So that's the strong point for there. There's pros and cons for them. There's pros and cons for the buyer,
I love it.
right?
Mary, thank you so much for
Well,
swinging
thank
by
you.
today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I knew this would be very informative when I spoke to you on the phone last week, and this is actually our first time meeting.
It's our
So,
first time meeting, and let me just say, so hopefully I brought information to you, but you taught me about podcasts. I've always
yeah,
wanted to do one, and I'm going, well, that's kind of fun. I haven't pulled the trigger on that,
yeah.
so
Well,
you made it easy.
now you know Jesus. He's the guy behind the scenes, making it
Thank
happen
you,
here.
sir. Appreciate you.
And do you want to? Is there any? We'll leave it off. We'll wrap it up. No pun intended. Um, with do you have anything, any advice for newer agents, or just anything in general, as far as like you being in real estate for so long? Um, what what'll keep you in it in the long haul?
Educate yourself, and always be transparent with who you deal with, and come into it from lack of a better, pure of heart in what you're trying to do. I know that there's money out there, and just try and do right by people and be transparent, but educate yourself is the biggest thing. Be curious, like you are. I think that'll really bode you well and keep you as a career. This isn't just a one-off. You get a license and yay. To me, it's a career. It's a passion.
Exactly.
It's what you're doing.
Yeah, I swore this was. I came from a construction background, and I
Mm-hmm.
swore whenever I got my license that this was it. There's no going back. I had to find a way to make it happen, and
Yeah, absolutely.
thankfully,
Construction's great.
it is.
I love of real estate, high risk, high reward.
It is.
I love building.
Yeah.
It's
It's
very
really
satisfying.
rewarding.
Yeah.
You see the like you talked about
Ground
instant
up.
gratification, but you
Yeah.
can see the change
Mm-hmm.
within a short period of time. But
Yeah.
Mary, thank you so much for
Thank you.
swinging
It's
by
such a
again.
pleasure.
It was a
Good to
pleasure
meet
talking to
you.
you. Good to meet you.
Thanks, William.
Thank you.